Welcome, everybody, to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the final day of competition of the third round of the 2020 Ferrari Challenge North America Championship. Greg Kramer along with Ryan Marine. Great to have all of you with us here. And our biggest field of the weekend, the Coppa Shell category, featuring the Coppa Shell and Coppa Shell AM drivers, are making their way out onto the beautiful infield road course here. Take a look at the schedule modified after the long layoff for the COVID pandemic. We're running Indianapolis now after Daytona and Road Atlantis, Circuit of the Americas end of August, end of September, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, mid-October, Watkins Glen, and then the Finale Mondiale in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. The first 2 days of that event are the final two rounds of each attending championship's national championship, and then the World Finals unfold. And here's Indianapolis. This is where we are this weekend, this legendary venue. Over a century of history and legend has unfolded at this venue. And here's a look at the infield road course, running the opposite direction of the Indy 500. This one runs clockwise, so you go down the front straight into the huge overtaking area at turn 1. Then you get the launch out of turn 4 through that quick left-right flick down the Holman Boulevard infield straight into another great overtaking area at turn 7. Then through the S's, crucial run out of turn 10. That leads you up into the high-speed, slightly banked turn 11, the one bit of the track that has a little banking, and then the slight off-camber turn 12. And then the critically important disciplined exit of turn 13. And then winding it up through 14 and onto the front straight. So here's a look. Current air temperature is a beautiful day. The air temperature is a pleasant 85, but there's some humidity out there, which has the real feel up into the 97-degree range right now. So these drivers inside these cars, this is when you've got to have a little bit of fitness and training and make sure you've got your fluid intake all right. And I'm sure some of the drivers might even be running the odd cool suit here. And one of the reasons is this track itself is challenging, and to give you a look from the driver's perspective, is a two-time champion.
Cooper McNeil here, driver of the number 63 WeatherTech Racing Ferrari Challenge Evo car. Let's go for a lap around Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So here we are at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in our number 63 WeatherTech Racing Ferrari Evo Challenge car. Coming on the front straight here, it's important to start the lap with a lot of full throttle to maximize the speed down this long straightaway. There we are across the bricks, the famous Indy bricks. Going into turn 1, looking for the 500 board, trying to get to the 500 board to hit the brakes, all the way down to third gear, very heavy brake zone into turn 1 here at Indy Motor Speedway. A lot of horsepower in this car, so it's better to stay up a gear than to be sliding the rears around. Turn 2, turn 3, going into turn 4 now, a bit of understeer. So I try to get as much curbing as I can possibly take there without upsetting the car. Here we are flat through turn 5 and 6, the quick chicane onto the middle straight here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Up through the gears, listening to the twin turbo V8 behind me. Down to the 500 brake marker, all the way down to third gear, one of the slowest corners on the racetrack. It's important to get the car all the way to the right side and brake straight in a straight line for turn 9 here. Use all the curbs, turn 10, all the curbs as well. And rolling on the throttle here, trying to maximize the exit speed here, but a little difficult with the damp patches we had this morning. In the dry, this particular area on the racetrack is flat, but as you can see, it's still damp and we have a bit of traffic here. Catch this yellow car, but thankfully he lets me by, turning in for turn 13, and it's important to stay, get a little oversteer there, it's important to stay left here to maximize the speed, again, onto the front straightaway here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. A busy lap, a quick lap, but a fun one here at Indy Motor Speedway.
Boy, what a great ride that was. And the one thing I wanted to, if you've DVR'd this or somehow have a way to record it, for those of you who have never driven a racing car but are interested in doing it, look at Cooper's eyes relative to the position of the steering wheel when he gets to a turn, and how soon those eyes look over and through that corner before he turns the wheel. That's heads up looking ahead. If you get too focused on what's right in front of you, everything rushes at you. When your eyes are up and you can look through the corner well before you turn, that's how you're quick. It's just that simple. It was a great example of that with Cooper's eyes. So, again, this is a double-header weekend, and as the cars are completing their installation laps and getting ready for the official start of things, let's take a look at the highlights from yesterday's entertaining race. And as they came up for the start on the pole, it was Kevin Milstein, but Jim Booth in that red Ferrari jumped the start a little bit. They waved the green anyway. Booth was going to get assessed a 15-second penalty for jumping the start. He had an issue later in the race as well. But the man on the move, without doubt, was Charles Whittall in this red and black number, or white and black number 166. Started back in the order a bit and then started charging through the pack. That was the 113 of Bayervald, who overshot in turn number 12 just a little bit. Here's another move by Whittall as he comes up here, makes a big pass there down into turn 1 and got it controlled and stopped. Not always the easiest thing. Now here's John Lennon. Sorry, he's running an unusually liveried car for him, that yellow one, as it's a backup car, if you will. Overshot in turn 1, but as he rejoined Cyril Choksi in the blue-red car right here, thought Lennon was going to come across on him and hit the brakes as the car was loaded through the exit of turn number 3, and it snapped around on him. Later in the race, Todd Coleman, the pole sitter in the AM class, got in a little bit hot, spun, and that caused back in the field another incident, and a couple of cars got gathered up. The result, a full course yellow that could not be cleaned up. And at the end, it was Milstein getting the win after the problems for Booth. And it was an entertaining race with lots of action in various places. And Justin Wetherill, who had started a little bit farther back in second place in the AM class, was right there to take home yet another win to start this season. So pretty strong stuff from a couple of drivers out there, and some very interesting racing that has been unfolding. And for more information on some of the drivers in this one, let's get down to Ryan.
Thanks, Craig. The Coppa Shell battles all weekend have been close. How close? Take a look at this. I think the Band-Aid with ouch on it says it all. This is Brad Horstmann's car. He'll be starting third. Top 3 in qualifying were separated by less than 0.3 of a second. I had a chance to chat with Brad about qualifying and his expectations for race number 2. Brad Horstmann, another remarkably close qualifying session in Coppa Shell. Going back to yesterday, a lot of close racing as well. You'll roll off in third in class, 4th overall. Is that a position you think you can get the results you're looking for from?
Well, I would love to be in the front right, but I started in the same spot yesterday, and we ended up second in a pretty exciting race. So I'm hoping to repeat that and maybe move up a spot. So
the battles on track have been very, very close, and some of your sparring mates you're familiar from when you raced in another class with them a year ago. How fun is it to see those battles continuing on as you elevate in your career?
Yeah, no, I was telling Jay, we battled it out all last year in the Coppa Shell Am class and came down to the final race, and we've been side by side, it seems, almost every race this year. And Jay's a great driver, and we've, as close as we've been all these races, we've never touched one another, not even a hint. And so it's great racing guys like that have got great car control, that you can trust, they can trust you, and it just makes it that much more fun.
He's your reigning Coppa Shell AM champion, Brad Horstmann. Good luck today.
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much, Ryan Marine. And now it is time to officially get things started here for that most special command in racing. Please welcome the winner of the 1998 Indy 500, Eddie Cheever.
Drivers, start your Ferrari engines.
Thank you, Eddie, as this field, and a large one at that, 26 cars strong, come to life. 670 plus horsepower in each one of those beautiful 488 Challenge Evo machines, getting ready for this 30-minute timed event, the second of the doubleheaders of round 3 of the championship at Indianapolis, and the 6th race of the season. They'll be led around by this beautiful machine, the F8 Tributo, which is serving as the official safety and pace vehicle for the weekend. Basically, it has taken all of the heritage of the 488 GTB and the 488 Challenge car, and they have poured it into this glorious F8 Tributo. utilizes the same 710 horsepower V8 that lives in the 488 Pista, and it is something very special indeed. And it will be leading this field around. And we are looking forward to getting this one underway. Again, 30-minute timed event, 2 different categories within the Coppa Shell class, the Coppa Shell class and the Coppa Shell Am category drivers. Looks like we have one car that's just getting things squared away here. And then we should be able to release the cars out for their official pace lap to set this field underway. One thing I did want to talk about a little bit here, Ryan was alluding to it when he talked to Brad Horstmann, points in the battles and the like. Right now, keep in mind Osvaldo Gallo not able to make it this weekend. He and Jay Schreibman are tied to top the order after yesterday's race, and Schreibman, in fact, got pole, so he's got a 1-point lead, Schreibman does, over Osvaldo Gallo. And here's the amazing thing. The top 4 in this class, in the Coppa Shell class, currently covered by 5 points. Schreibman, 1 over Gallo, who has 2 over Booth, who has 2 over Brad Horstmann. And with his win yesterday, Kevin Milstein jumps into 5th in the points, and he is only another 7 points back right now of Brad Horstmann. So this championship in Coppa Shell, very, very close. A little bit different story in Coppa Shell Am is Justin Wetherill has just been on form this year. He's already got 4 wins in 5 races and has a 30 right now over Dave Musial, 2.0 as we call him. We'll explain that later. But behind Musial, it's close. Christopher Aiken only 5 points back, then only 3 points back. Michael Quattlebaum, and he's not here this weekend, but Michael Watt, who's been having a little bit of an issue this weekend, didn't even start yesterday's race, finds himself in 5th in the points. He needs to get going after it. And then Jan Bernier, Todd Coleman, John Lennon, and all those drivers still in it. And Charles Whittle, who comes in down the point order just a little bit after not making both of the previous rounds of the championship, was on form yesterday, auguring his way through the field. Started in 13th spot in class, finished in 4th. That's a lot of cars to work his way up. Today, qualifying in 3rd. So what can he do from that position well higher up than he was yesterday when he was absolutely the overtake king in that race? So lots to watch for here, and we're sure excited to get it underway. Christopher Aiken, the driver who is on pole here, and he's up mixing it up with the top 3 guys in the Coppa Shell category. So that's impressive stuff here. Looks like there's one car there where they got the rear deck up and doing a little bit of work. And you can see the red shirts of the Ferrari Challenge officials down there checking in with the teams, making sure everybody is ready to go. It looks like they've got that machine buttoned up, and that little bit of a heart in the throat moment right there. I think that may have been Christopher Aiken, the pole sitter. Check that. That was Brad Horstmann, of course, who had the ouch on the side of his car that Ryan pointed out. There's close quarters racing here in Ferrari Challenge. Generally done with immense respect, and if there is a little contact, it might just be that little bit of a rub here and there. Every once in a while, though, it is racing, and things do happen. And that's why you have these heroes, and I'm talking about the crew members, that when something goes awry, I've said it many times, the unsung heroes of this sport are the crew members. And they're the ones that they end up spending the long hours not just making these cars fast, but safe. All right, the field now officially underway for the pace lap, at the end of which that beautiful F.A. Tributo will duck into pit lane. And Jay Schreibman, Collie Ferrari of Detroit, will lead that field to the green flag for 30 minutes of racing here in this combined race. And Ryan, I talked quickly here about the temperature out there. You've been out in it. It's warm, isn't it?
It is. It's picked up a lot since this morning, which I think is going to be an interesting storyline for the race. The qualifying times were set in much different conditions. There was more cloud cover. Certainly the humidity feels like it's been on the rise as well. So it's going to be a different look and feel as far as the weather conditions are concerned when the green flag falls.
And it may just be a 30-minute race, but when you're, for a half hour, full tilt throttle, muscling a 670 horsepower machine around the track, it's a workout. Here's your starting lineup. Jay Schreibman gets the point for pole. Kevin Milstein alongside. Christopher Aiken earns the point for pole in Coppa Shell Am alongside Brad Horstmann in Coppa Shell. Then Dave Musial, second in Shell Am, shares the inside of row 3 with Jim Booth. Then in row number 4, it's Charles Whittle and Todd Coleman. Then it is John Lennon, Justin Wetherill, Shoxey and Wetherill there, 9th and 10th. Then starting 11th, it's Jan Bernier and Michael Watt. Starting in the 12th spot, it is going to be Todd Coleman starting in 13th, Peruski in 14th. Kirk Bayerwald in the 15th spot. Roy Carroll in spot 16. 17th, Lisa Clark, top lady qualifier over Lance Colley. Then in row 10, Michael Krekel over Eileen Bildman. Then in row 11, it'll be Bubba Roof and Neil Langberg. Continuing on, I said it's a big field. Robert Hertzberg will start 23rd, and 24th, it'll be Anthony DiCarlo. And then it will be Jesus Mendoza, and then George Zachary will be starting in that final row. So field out, working their way around here on this parade lap here. Everybody checking up just a little bit, getting into turn 10, or into turn 1. Correct it again, turn 7. And I think what they were trying to do is just be able to hustle it a little bit through 7 and load the car just a little bit, get some heat in those tires, get some heat in those brakes as they are making their way around, getting set to go for the start of this venue. And absolutely delighted to welcome into the booth the gentleman who gave that special command to start engines, Eddie Cheever, winner here at the Indy 500 in 98, but also done a lot of Formula One racing in your day and very familiar with road racing. And this has got to be an awful lot of fun, one, to see a field of just nothing but these glorious Ferraris.
I've always been a Ferrari fan since I was a kid, and I was lucky enough to actually test for the Commendatore Ferrari in the 70s. So I had a week that I spent at Ferrari. And if you were raised in Italy like I was, there's the church and then there's Ferrari.
It's that simple.
It's that simple.
And
then they throw some soccer in between.
The Tifosi are just that real. There's no question about it here. Glad you're with us, and I understand you can stay for just a little bit. So we're about ready to get this one going. So now here we go through turn number 13. And the beautiful F8 Tributo down into pit lane. The field under control of Jay Schreibman, that red car with the white nose, alongside Kevin Milstein as they work their way through. Schreibman bringing them up nice and disciplined, nice and slow, working their way, looking for that green flag from the scoring stand right by and just past that beautiful tower. Here we go. The pylon gives the order of who's lined up, but now the order comes for green. We are racing. 30 minutes underway. Schreibman noses just a little bit ahead here. Chris Aiken trying to get down the inside of Milstein. He would like to get up there, put another car between himself and his pursuers. Aiken looking at it, but not happening. Milstein sweeps his way through. Back in the pack, everybody being very circumspect and respectful, understanding you can't win it in this first corner, but you can sure throw it away. Everything settling out just a little bit. Watching right there, that's Charles Whittle in that black and white, number 166, who was so strong yesterday. Now things settling a little bit onto the infield straight. A big wobble there by Bernier, but he hangs on to it. And the action is fierce. Look at this. Milstein diving to the apex of turn 7 and makes it stick. Eddie Cheever, that was a great pass.
And he set that up really early from that corner before, and he did everything the way you have to do it. It's impossible to win a race if you have an accident. I've never seen anybody have a big accident and win a race. So he obviously has a fast car. This is not an easy track to get your rhythm on. As you could see in those first corners, they were all over the place. But it sure is beautiful to see these cars.
It is indeed, and I'll tell you, we've seen a lot of guys do that late lunge into 1 or 7, and then inexorably they overshoot the corner, and somehow Milstein got it woed down and turned. I mean, he on cold tires and the like, that was impressive.
You're absolutely right. The cold tires, and don't forget, everybody has the same car here, so you are just on your talent and trying to out-strategize the drivers that are ahead of you. But you've got to make the tires last the whole race. And you can't make any mistakes. And when you're out trying to outbrake something that is exactly the same car that you have and he's 10 feet ahead of you, you've got to find some special speed someplace.
Yeah, it's not like you've got a lot more power that you've developed or whatever. A big look here now, a little bit deeper in the pack. I think that is. Oh, well, not a surprise. That's Justin Wetherill, who didn't have the qualifying run he wanted and then fell even farther down at the start. Last time by, he was 14th overall, 10th in class, but he's got 4 or 5 wins already this year, so he's trying to march his way up through the pack. That's Jim Booth in that red Ferrari with the big golden arch on the nose, floating a little bit wide as he came through that corner. And this guy right here, this 105, Brad Horstmann, he's the guy I think right now to be watching. He looks like he's trying to plan some sort of attack on the AM leader, Christopher Aiken.
How old is he?
Which one? The Horstmann?
Yes.
I would say Brad is probably in his upper 40s. He's experienced.
I am impressed. I'm impressed and I'm jealous.
Yeah, that's one of the nice things about this field is you've got pretty much every age represented here, from young drivers to drivers who have done well and spent their life in business and always been car guys and are able to put together a program here with the immense help of the entire ladder system in Ferrari Challenge, that if you don't have racing experience, they teach you that, bring you along so you can jump into a car like this and be competitive.
And Ferrari has so much experience in racing that when you join something like this, all that heritage comes along with it. And it is a very unique brand, and they create very unique machines. Every time I see a Ferrari on the road, it's like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like seeing a beautiful woman. You stop and admire.
Absolutely, it turns your head. There's no question about that.
And it might your neck, and you might just keep on looking.
Exactly. And to quote Alan Alden Mash, drive your car up a tree. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And the other thing that Ferrari Challenge creates for these drivers, not just great experiences, but memories.
Yes.
I mean, you're driving a Ferrari, you win at Indy, you podium at Indy, you drive across that yard of bricks. Doesn't matter if it's in the 500 or in this, you've won at Indy.
Indy is one of those racetracks where you don't have to explain to anybody where it is, and they understand the importance of the track and the history. And there's so much history at this track. I enjoyed racing at Indy mostly because of all the stories I had heard when I was a kid of Foyt and other drivers. It is a very special place.
Well, and I have to say a little story on you.
Am I going to get embarrassed?
No. The first U.S. Grand Prix here in 2000, when they had all of the active Indy 500 winners that they could find, and they introduced all of you and everything. I was working a corner. That's my hobby. I love to corner work. And I was working a corner and listening to you getting interviewed by Tom Carnegie talking about what was going to unfold that day. That was really, really cool because of the fact that I'd watched you race in Formula One for a lot of years as well. That was a very cool moment.
You look way too young to have seen me race in Formula One.
You are very kind, sir. Very, very kind.
Carnegie, what a voice.
I know.
What a man.
Yeah.
I remember saying, and he's on it.
Yep.
At the same time.
Every time. And a new track record. Those comments. So got some great racing unfolding on the track. Here's a look at the 107 of John Lennon. And he has worked his way up into 4th in class. You see the black nose on that yellow car. That is a teammate's car who, after Lennon got involved in a couple of bits of contact in the test days, his car wasn't quite right. One of his teammates said, well, here, use mine. And Lennon has spent yesterday really kind of coming to grips and feeling that new car out. But the team has done an absolutely brilliant job of getting that car, the Ferrari San Francisco entry, up to his liking in terms of his particular setup. And it is a good one. But I continue to watch this battle here. Horstmann pressuring Aiken. And now Jim Booth, what a run through 11. Can he get it slowed in 12? He carried it all the way to the exit at 12. Horstmann trying to do something with it, but can't. And Booth is through. And that was a pass for the podium in the Coppa Shell class.
And that argument is going to continue at the end of this straightaway. So he better get in his toe, because if he does, he can make a lunch for that ever so difficult turn 1.
Yeah,
He's a little bit too far back.
Yep, just not quite close enough, was he? And Booth on the move. But here comes Lennon now as he pops out, taking a look at Dave Musial 2.0. And Lennon gets that done now, and he realized if I continue and go for it, I'm going to hit Whitall.
I don't think that's legal what he did. He went off the track. He wasn't pushed off.
I think you're right, and I think that's why when he came on, he lifted and let Whitall take that spot back.
Good thinking.
And if he had, and I think he did it because if he tried to stay on the line, he'd have hit Whitall. So I think that was nice, but you know the officials might say, well, tell you what, you should probably drop back behind Musial too here. We'll see how that plays out. But Booth is on the move here in that red Ferrari. But you called it, Horstmann. He didn't get the run on him down into turn 1, but at the end of the Holman Boulevard straight, he has gathered Booth right back up again. Right there, there's Horstmann behind that red Ferrari.
I'm really impressed how well these Ferraris do when they drive them over those curbs. Because when you drive a race car at that speed on a curb like that, it really unsettles the car. So they must be prone to getting over bumps without creating any problems.
Well, they've done, I think, a brilliant job in this 488 Challenge Evo of giving you that platform stiffness you need to be able to get through corners while still being kind of compliant over those curves.
That's so difficult to do. You either have, in racing, you have one thing or another. This is another battle that's going to develop here under braking. Let's see if he dives on the inside.
I think he will. He got a great run through 14, didn't he?
If he's going to do it, he better start.
He's tucked in. He's tucked in. Here he comes.
Keep going. No.
Yep. Boy, Aiken doing a brilliant job as an AM competitor, out dueling a Coppa Shell driver down into the brake zone. That's special stuff.
When you have a driver behind you like that and is trying to pass you under braking and you don't want it to happen, you take your eye off where you're going and you drive in your mirrors. So if he's braking late, you just brake that much later. And often both of the drivers will change line. So it's very difficult to guard against that. And I can see just passing anybody anywhere here is not that easy. So they don't give up positions easily.
No, it's a challenge. They fight and they fight back. We saw a couple of great counterpunch moves where somebody would make that pass but float a little wide. The driver read it to perfection, turned underneath, picked the throttle up a little sooner. These guys, and that's part of this great program that Corso Pilota. They do just a superb job, not just of teaching people how to go fast, but how to race.
Yes, they do. And race some pretty superb cars.
Oh, boy, this thing's special.
So you can't just tell somebody, a mechanic, when you come in, this thing doesn't handle very well, because they know exactly how it handles.
Exactly.
So you better get your act together.
You know, and like you said, when every car is virtually identical other than little tweaks in setup, when that race unfolds, there's only one person to point fingers at.
That's right.
Success or not.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Let's see here now. Booth doesn't look quite close enough to Aiken this time.
There's not that much of a gain when you're in the tow. In an Indy car, there'd be a much bigger gain than that.
Well, Booth stays right with him there, but boy, then Aiken, he gets out of turn 2 really well.
And that sets him up well for that back straightaway.
This is a huge corner, isn't it? Turn 4, as it leads. You're flat through this kink, so you better be good out of 4.
Right. And you want to be careful if you go over that curb. You want to be careful how you go over the curb. You don't want to clip it just with one tire, because it can spin you.
Everybody negotiating it well thus far. I'm impressed with Milstein. Got around pole sitter Schreibman and has opened up a bit of a margin up front. Schreibman has a little bit of a margin to Aiken. You see Schreibman right at the bottom of the screen. But then this battle, Aiken leading in the AM category, Booth and Horstmann next up in Coppa Shell. And right behind Horstmann is Whittle, Lennon, Musial, and Choxy. We're having a really stout drive. And the reason we keep calling Dave Musial 2.0 is his dad said he's technically not a junior. He doesn't share the same middle name, but he's an improvement on me in every way, so we just call him Dave 2.0. Eddie, understand you got to run.
It was a real
Thank
pleasure.
you so much. I guess
we'll do the elbow bump, no shaking of the hand.
Real pleasure to have you here. Thanks for giving that special command. Thanks for popping by.
Always a pleasure.
Eddie Cheever, folks. What a great opportunity to have him here and give that special command. And what a joy to have him pop into the booth for a little bit of a visit here. I think we're seeing Justin Wetherell trying to continue his march through the field. That's Michael Watt he's taking a look at. He's got a straight line to the apex, and oh, that was close. He almost collected him. Wetherell able to rein things in. just enough to not clip him. And welcoming Ryan back onto the headset here. Appreciate you generously giving up your position.
Are you kidding me? And missed the chance to listen to Indianapolis royalty? No way.
I
That
kind
was
of
awesome.
figured you wouldn't be too upset with that at all.
I'm an Indy native. I've been coming to this place for a very long time. That was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Eddie Cheever. It was funny, his comment about me watching him in F1. I tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed watching him race in F1. You know, obviously, you know, and as he said, you know, an American raised in Italy.
That's right.
I mean, talk about being a fan of somebody. Running an F1 from an American perspective. That's awesome. There is John Lennon, who continues to have a great run. And he did get that pass made now on Musial, and Lennon now up into podium contention. As I said, last night in the hotel, talked to he and his coach, Johnny O'Connell, and they said that, Johnny said he's just got natural pace. He's got natural ability. We're just working on that racecraft a little bit. And after that big lunge we saw him make yesterday where he overran turn 1, he said that's the kind of thing you learn not to do. You know, how to control that, what to do, you know, how to deal with it, not fall into that trap, so to speak. And the one thing he made the point to me was that he said, Lennon doesn't make the same mistake twice. You know, as a novice driver, he's going to make some mistakes, but never twice. And we've seen that play out today thus far.
Well, only 3 drivers ahead of him have a faster race lap, and none of them are in his class. So
yeah,
he has been flying, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's got a run going. Ooh, and look at this little scrap here as the pace of Booth pushing on Aiken has forced both of those guys right up onto the back of Jay Schreiben. So the battle for second overall is on, and they were right on Schreiben, weren't they? And then Booth ran a little wide in turn 10, and he gathered it up, and that forced Aiken to back off just a bit, caught he and Horstmann out, and has given Jay just that little bit of a margin.
Yeah, that was a consequence of them squabbling over a position of their
Good way to put
own,
it.
and I don't think it's going to last too long. Booth seems to be on a nice roll. Schreiben was our pole sitter, let's remember, and he did so by a matter of thousandths of a second. It was really, really tight. The top 8 thousandths, that's right.
Unbelievable.
The top 3 were separated by 2 tenths and change,
Yep.
so it was really close. Schreiben, though, did it sitting in the gravel. Remember, he
Yes.
spun off, had already set that fast lap, and had to sit there and wait and see if anybody could touch his time.
And I think it spoke volumes about how fast he went on that lap, that nobody could find 8 tenths or 8 1,000ths of a second. They had worked those cars so hard.
Yeah, we chatted with him after the qualifying, and he was giddy. There's no doubt. He said, I'm a pole sitter at Indianapolis. It doesn't matter if I did it facing the wrong way in the gravel. I'll take it any way I can get it, and maybe that makes for an even better story.
Yeah, very true. And speaking of great stories, how about Kevin Milstein? Pole yesterday, second today, but now off to a 6-second lead and a potential sweep of 2 races at Indianapolis. Here's a story.
Yeah, that would
you
be
can
big.
be able to tell, too, as we look at Schreiben here in that Collie Ferrari of Detroit entry. And the guy behind him now, Booth, this is for position. Remember, Booth qualified outside front row for yesterday's race. Had that little bit of a jump start and then a problem during the race itself. And he has augured his way up through the field. Didn't get the qualifying he wanted. And has now fought his way up into a battle for second overall, second in Coppa Shell.
Yeah, that was the big surprise for me coming out of qualifying. I was wondering what happened there, and I never did get a definitive answer. But if there was a problem, it's been fixed because he's turning in some great laps, running faster than the cars ahead of him by and large. Milstein's kind of in a league of his own at the moment, but I think Booth's going to be there giving Schreiben a run for his money here before too much longer.
I think so, too. It's going to be interesting to see if Horstmann can get through on Aiken. He's making a bit of a move, realized it wasn't on, but if he can get through, Booth and Schreiben are still close enough that Horstmann could get up there and join his old sparring partner and Jim Booth for a good battle here. But the problem is Aiken, the pole sitter in the AM category, is showing a great turn of speed.
Yeah, he's been really, really fast and was clearly quite pleased with what they found in qualifying. And a decent run yesterday, a top 5, but yeah, this has been a step above what we saw from him yesterday for sure.
Oh, Booth looking to the inside of Schreiben and realized that had left that a little bit too late and it wasn't going to work. Meanwhile, watching this here, Charles Whittle, who we talked about, started 13th yesterday and fought his way up into 4th. Finally, he qualified 3rd today. He sits 2nd, and he's right there with Brad Horstmann. But the bigger concern for him is a very fast man named Lennon, who's coming up on his 6th in a hurry here. So we've got some great battles brewing, but tough to beat these two right here. And this one in particular, Horstmann all over the back of Aiken.
And again, not for position in class, but crucial if Horstmann has any real desire to chase down Booth and Schreibman. He can see him up there. He's got one hurdle to clear, and it's that Ferrari just up ahead of him. He's in the slipstream here. Might he take another look into one?
Yeah, he had a little bit better run, it appeared, out of 14. But one thing about this here is every once in a while we've looked at it and said, wow, we're surprised they're not making up a lot of ground once they're clearly in the tow. Well, that could mean that that car is running more downforce, has a little bit more on the nose, has a little bit more in that rear wing. And so it stalls out just a little bit because of the drag. And that's why they get the great run through turn 4, through turn 11, through turn 14, but then can't finish it down into turn 1 or 7. Booth getting a run this time, makes the move a lot earlier. Schreibman, is he going to try the counter move? He is. Booth floats way wide. Schreibman goes to throttle. They're side by side into 8. And that gives way, and Schreibman has to tuck back in behind Booth. So Booth now takes over 2nd place in Coppa Shell.
That was a really nice move. I think he learned something from his attempt earlier and made sure he was close enough that time to get the job done. Did it cleanly, used the track layout to his advantage, running nice and defensively, which happens to be on line through that section. And now I think he might be able to check out a little bit. He's been awfully fast.
Yeah, he has. And, for Schreibman, this is Schreibman's 2nd year racing, period. Booth has been racing for a lot of years and has spent a lot of time in earlier versions of the challenge car, the 488 challenge car, when they would run some club races, essentially. And then all of his time in the Radical prototype. So he's got lots of racecraft, and that's something that is fairly new to Jay. But Jay fought him brilliantly, didn't he?
He did. That was well judged by both of them. And for Jay, it's a matter of continuing to race on, make sure you've got the car underneath you to do so. And who knows, there's still a third of this race to go, and things could swing back his direction.
Meanwhile, Horstmann in the 105, the silver and black car there, absolutely continues heaping the pressure on the back of leader in AM, Christopher Aiken. And that black and white highlighted 488 challenge car. Horstmann looks way early there. And then tucks right back in. And the problem is for a Horstmann right now, if he does something, tries something, and really gets parked, right behind him is Whittle, who we've seen has been incredibly impressive, and Lennon right on his 6 as well. There they are, the white car and that yellow car with the black nose.
And there's no let up at all.
No.
This is, you can see it in the timing screens from 3rd back to 11th. I mean, we're talking about just 8 seconds there, covering all of those cars, and most of them are really clustered all together, kind of right in the middle of all of that. And you make one mistake, and you're not losing 1 spot, you're losing 2 or 3.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you what, Surreal Choxy is having one of his best races. He's gone around Dave Musial and moved up into 4th, and Surreal was the guy that when Lennon ran wide and won and came back on through the access road, and Surreal lit it up trying to make sure he didn't hit him. And Surreal is doing a superb job now as he sits in the 4th spot, not that far behind Lennon.
Yeah, he's doing a good job here today. I'm sure he's happy he hasn't had anyone rejoining near him over the course of the race today. That I'm sure he'll take and be quite pleased with. But just off the podium right now, he can sniff it. It's not too far up ahead, the class podium. Lennon holding down that 3rd spot in AM.
He's having a great run. Choxy as well, keeping in mind his best finish prior to this season was 9th. So sitting in a 4th spot. Boy, talk about the right spot, place to put together a great drive is Indy.
That puts a difficult proposition into his head, right? Like, I'm sure he wants that podium, but a 4th place result would be really good too. So how do you balance that desire to really make it a breakthrough and get to stand on the podium at Indy? And even if you stay put, you're still going to improve your best finish by 5 spots. So
exactly.
yeah, he's gotta have to do some mental gymnastics there to figure out just how much risk he wants to take.
And another battle that's going to be forming up very soon is the battle for 5th in the AM category, as Dave Musial has the guy who's now set the fastest lap in the AM category, points leader Justin Wetherill, closing on him quickly. You can see there's Choxy's car, the blue car with the red stripe down the middle behind Lennon's yellow mount. Then it's Musial, then it's Wetherill. So these guys are all coming up and packing it in here just a little bit.
One other thing to keep an eye on is the overall lead. The gap has shrunk noticeably. It was up around 5 seconds, and Booth has really trimmed into that. It's down to 2.5 seconds here in just 2 or 3 laps, so that might be one to keep tabs on as well.
Well, we watched Milstein open that lead up substantially in the early laps, and you wonder sometimes, as good as these new Pirellis are, that give you a little bit better life. Ooh, and a big off here and a slide by Eileen Bildman. I think she'd already had the off, and that was her just rejoining. Looked like at turn 1. And she did a nice job of doing the snap turn and getting it back and underway. She had a superb finish yesterday, and she just really likes this place. Here's what happened, Ryan. It's coming down the front straight. No, they jumped ahead here a little bit. Yeah, it looks like she must have just had that snap loose right as she was exiting one. But anyway, she loves this place. Last year had her best finish in her career at that point. Had a great run yesterday. And her normal coach, Catherine Lake, recovering from the crash she had in testing at Circuit Paul Ricard, she found an able replacement to help her this weekend, a guy named Pompelli.
Yeah, Spencer certainly knows his way around a racetrack. He'll be racing here later in the year, so maybe he's learning a little something from Eileen as well. But yeah, it's definitely you could do a lot worse than Spencer, and I know you've said it a few times, but I'll extend our best wishes for a quick recovery to Catherine Legg as well. A real sportsman, sportswoman, I guess, and an excellent race car driver.
No question. And look here. Oh, nice job down to the inside, Milstein. That is putting it's a nice job by that lap car to recognize what was happening. I'm sure they were on the radio saying that's the overall leader to let him through. And it didn't cost Milstein any time. You know, Booth was really hoping that Milstein would get hung up behind that lap car to let him get a little closer.
Yeah, he'd been able to make some progress like we said, but Kevin has really responded. He put about a second on Booth on that last lap, and we did get word there might have been a local yellow that could have impeded Kevin's pace at a certain point, and that might have had something to do with the fact that he's dropped off a little bit in terms of that big lead. But let's not discount the pace from Booth, and again, it just takes a lap car at the wrong time, and unfortunately it's Booth who's dealing with that right now, and that big gap can really come down.
Absolutely. Now Booth will get a little bit of a tow here, and then we'll pop out, but let's see what's that. Oh, it's up to 4 seconds now. So yeah, you call it. Look at this scrum of cars behind him. Schreibman, Aiken. And the guy that looks to be missing from that list is Lennon. So Horstmann is through. Oh boy, this is going to be very difficult and inevitable. Horstmann got tipped. There were 2 cars that had already touched behind him before that happened. And the 119 right in the middle of the mix. Chris Aiken, who was the pole sitter in the AM class, leading at the time. This is going to throw things on its head. Watch this now, Ryan. You see Whittall make the move. Choxy's way down to the inside.
Yeah, but that's what caused the problem there. Yeah. That was Horstmann coming down, just doing his normal racing line, and I don't think he had any real vision of Choxy coming up the inside. I'm not sure anyone did anything wrong, quite honestly. Choxy was trying to make a pass, and as far as Horstmann was concerned, I'm not sure he could have known that there was a car coming there, and now something perhaps amiss with Brad's car after that contact.
Oh, that's, yeah, very unfortunate. And that's the thing, is that, you know, we saw Whittall making the move on Horstmann. Horstmann, no doubt, saw him in the mirrors.
Right.
Oh, this is Wetherill. Boy, he's an opportunistic driver. Anything happens in front, he just says, okay, and pounces and does it. But what I was going to say was, So Horstmann, no doubt, saw Whittle in the mirror, but Choxy was another car. You don't see him in the mirrors at that point. Mirrors aren't that wide.
No.
He had no clue he was there.
And at a certain point, you're focused on hitting your braking markers. You're looking in the rear view camera, I guess, before you get to the brake zone, kind of trying to anticipate what you're going to experience when you get there. And then at that point, you're focused on your own racing line, and that's when some of the surprises can happen.
Oh, and Whittle just had Wetherill get in his head just a little bit, as Wetherill did not have that pass made, and Whittle still floated wide. And then Whittle, a wide line through and another car collects him. Oh, and then a big hit there, as that's Jan Bernier getting into the point leader. And what happened there was Whittle was running a normal line through turn 4, a wide line, trying to get the run out of it. And Wetherill thought, well, maybe I could just sneak up the inside. Oh, and there's fluid coming from Bernier's car, so cars behind him. Here it is. And there was nowhere for Watt to go, but then this hit. And Bernier was obviously trying to figure out which way do I go, and may not even recognize there was a second car there.
Sure. And there were some big hits.
Yes, there were. And again, this is Justin Wetherill, who, after yesterday's race, came in with a sizable point lead.
Should probably mention that the beneficiary of all this chaos has been Choxy. Look at this. He's leading his class. And that was before this turn 1 scrum that we just saw. He was already up in that position, so that dated back to the previous contact. So talk about improving your best ever finishing position. He is
seriously
about to do that in a big way.
The interesting thing, too, was Lennon, who had a terrible lap and had dropped from that battle for the podium back to 7th or 8th, is now 2nd. With Musial, yesterday's pole sitter Coleman, and then Roy Carroll has jumped up into the top 5. And Booth has found a little bit of speed, closed up a bit more on Milstein, not enough. And keep in mind that Booth right now is comfortably the leader in the gentleman's category. That's for the drivers who have a little bit more experience, perhaps, than others.
That's right. Very diplomatic of you.
Meanwhile, here is the 138 of Kevin Milstein, Ferrari of San Diego, as we're into our final minute and 20 seconds.
Not sure there's enough time to have this change around, but Booth has been really dogged in his pursuit. He's been able to hang right there, keep it around 3 seconds or so.
Yeah, we're on our final lap, and you're lapping in a minute 30 or thereabouts. And they got to the start stand with a minute 12 left on the clock, so they have to throw that. So down the front straight we go, watching here. Here comes Schreibman and then Cyril Choxy, who has that big lead. I have to say, there may be a penalty for him because of the contact with Horstmann. We'll have to see if they judge that as a 50-50. It was just a racing incident, nobody to blame. But for Choxy, either way, it has been just a superb drive for Cyril.
Well, he's announced his presence. There's no
question.
question.
There you go. Great way to put it.
Everyone who was watching knew he was there. His competitors knew he had the pace. And regardless of how this one plays out in the steward's office, he's going to know now, okay, I can run with these guys. And that's a big boost of confidence to take forward.
And that car at the back of the screen here, coming in with the blue and orange livery, that is Lisa Clark, who right now is leading in the ladies category. She, last year in the early part of the season, she was frequently a top 3 competitor, a couple of podiums in the AM category here. And she missed the first 2 races and hasn't had a lot of racing going, so she's just sort of feeling her way back into the series here. And the checker is out. And look at this by Milstein. Able to respond in that last lap. He coasted, but he'd opened it up to 3.5 seconds and then just eased off in that last lap. Great fight through the field by Booth to come home with a 2nd place finish. Schreibman will hang on for 3rd. And here he comes. And then Cyril Choxy with the win. We'll put an asterisk on it. We'll wait for the officials. Then Lennon In second, Musial just refused to give up that podium no matter who was attacking on him, and ends up third, Ryan.
Yeah, really remarkable stuff from him. Good weekend all around, I'd say, for the Musial clan.
Absolutely. And Dave 2.0 is certainly showing that even though it's his first season of racing after doing Club Challenge last year, he's showing that spending a season or a number of events in Club Challenge is well worth the time spent, because he has instantly been a competitor and competitive here as we watch him. For Kevin Milstein, who had Jim Booth qualify alongside him in yesterday's race and jumped it and took off, Milstein ended up with the win when Booth had an issue and also got a penalty for that jump start. But today, Milstein from second on the grid, he was not to be denied, and he just controlled this one all the way through. And absolutely great to see for Kevin Milstein for Ferrari of San Diego. And with, keep in mind, Schreibman finishing back in the order just a little bit, he hasn't done himself any harm at all in terms of the points. Booth, although Booth should leapfrog, or at least end up perhaps tied with Schreibman right in that window, and Milstein will make up a few points. And for Horstmann, who's dropped well down the order, he had an issue. Obviously got that hit from Choxy and has dropped down the order all the way to 17th. He'll still get fourth place points, though, in Coppa Shell. Not what he wanted, but still he gets some valuable points. And there's Surreal. And just a great run. Great to see it for Surreal in Ferrari of Denver. So let's take a look at the results here. Milstein, Booth, Schreibman, your top three overall, and in Coppa Shell. Then Surreal Choxy, currently with the win in the AM category. John Lennon, what a fighting, scrappy second that was. Same for Dave Musial to stay on the podium. Todd Coleman spent the whole race just right in that same position, very consistent. Roy Carroll, a solid drive. And the pole sitter, Christopher Aiken, of course, got involved in that moment down in turn one and lost a lot of ground as a result. And then Kirk Bayervalt rounds out the top 10 overall. Then Kruckel, then Clark, winning the ladies category. Bubba Roof, Lance Colley, Anthony DiCarlo, Eileen Bildman. Then there's Horstmann, well back in the overall order, but still fourth in Coppa Shell. Hertzberg, Zachary, and unfortunately Charles Whittall, who had a tremendous qualifying run after a brilliant race yesterday up through the field, ends up back in the order after getting involved in some contact, not of his own making. Justin Wetherill struggling as well. Watt, Bernier, we saw these guys all involved in those incidents. And then some unrelated problems for Peruskia and the rest of the field here, talking about Mendoza and Langberg. So, but everybody heading now down into the Victory Circle staging area. There is the legendary Victory Circle here at Indianapolis. And the top three finishers of each class will be there. And, of course, they do a joint podium, so we'll have all four top threes will be presented trophies at the end of the day. Let's take a look at the provisional points now as they stand. First in Coppa Shell, there it is. Schreibman, 1 point up on Booth. That's how big that drive through the field was for Jim Booth. Milstein, closer than he was, only 6 points adrift to the lead. Horstmann right there as well. Gaio not here this weekend. Beck, those guys losing a little bit in the ground, but still, look at that. Top four covered by 7 points, 6 races into the series. This Coppa Shell class is going to be something special, I think, in terms of the points battle for the rest of the year. Now, big hit to the lead that our Coppa Shell AM points leader had with that incident here late in the race, and we'll take a look at those points in just a minute. He still has a comfortable margin of some 22 points. However, it was bigger than that coming in, and because of the size of this Coppa Shell AM field, he'll only get 1 point, while Musial there has grabbed 10 for third place finish. Aiken, with that incident, is going to drop down just a little bit. Quattlebaum not here. Lennon and Coleman will each make some significant gains in the points, as will Watt. And for Charles Whittall, who looked like he was going to make a huge step in the points, again, involved in that incident, he's going to lose some points here as well. So But I'll tell you, I'm still Charles Whittall is somebody to watch this year. That drive yesterday certainly opened the eyes up for a lot of people to what Charles is capable of, I think. And everybody's going to be watching him as this season progresses. Let's take a look. Speaking of watching things, how about some highlights from this one? Again, Jay Schreibman from pole with Milstein alongside as they headed down into turn one. Christopher Aiken there in third. Brilliant overtake here by Milstein. Made the move and then got the car stopped and rotated, where Schreibman couldn't do any kind of a counterpunch. You're watching Jay Wetherill as he started to work his way from back in the pack. Had a tough qualifying run. Coleman up and over that curve. And then Jim Booth started his attack as he was able to sneak underneath Wetherill. Then he gets a big run here. And not many passes are done and effective down into this corner, and he made it work on Horstmann. And then immediately started to attack on Aiken. And this wasn't for a class position, it was for overall. But he wasn't done yet. He got up to the front and snuck down and underneath Jay Schreibman, and again gets that car parked and rotated. Floated wide, looked like Schreibman had an opportunity, but Booth had the inside line for that next corner, turn number 8 and 9, and was able to slice through. And then right here, this bit of contact as Wetherill thought that Whittall had left the door open. There's contact there as Watt just tinks into Wetherill, but then this bigger impact is Jan Bernier, I'm sure completely unsighted and thinking Whittall was the only car he had to worry about, got into him pretty firmly. But at the end, Milstein getting the win over Booth and Schreibman for the podium in Coppa, and Cyril Choksi getting the win over Lennon and Musial, with Coleman fourth and Roy Carroll in the fifth spot. So that's how this sixth race of the season, second of the doubleheader weekend of round 3 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, has unfolded in Coppa and Coppa Am. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.